Thank you for tuning in and listening to this show today. I am so excited to share with you this show where I interview Sylvia Brallier. She is a healer, a powerful woman. She started a mystery school, and I was surprised to find that during our radio session, she gave me an impromptu reading, which was so dead on. I couldn't believe how right she was, and she barely knew me. In fact, I met her at a party at a friend's house a few months ago, and we instantly connected and started talking about spirituality and empowerment and transformation. And the more I thought about that after I had met her, I realized what a profound and incredible person she is. So I'm really excited to share with you Sylvia Brallier today. She is very funny. She is also very deep, and I've definitely felt a kinship with her in that respect. So go ahead, sit back, relax, and welcome to the realm of Sylvia Brallier.
Step into a new realm. Welcome to Realms of Healing with your host, Akashic Intuitive, Gabriel llhewellyn-ari.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Realms of Healing, where it is my utter privilege and honor to present you with new possibilities and perspectives on healing for your life. My name is Gabriel llhewellyn-ari, and I get the astute privilege and honor to be your host for the next hour here on Realms of Healing. I'm so excited for our show today. My guest is Sylvia Brallier. She is an author, a personal growth educator, a spiritual healer, and she's been teaching nationally and internationally for 25 years. Sylvia, welcome to Realms of Healing.
Oh, it's so great to be here.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. So, Sylvia, you have been doing healing work for a very, very long time. What compels you about doing healing work?
I tell you, the human being is the best puzzle in a bag ever invented. And I'm interested in, not just the spirit or not just emotions, but how can we work with healing from the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, the spiritual body, all these parts in a way that one supports the other, and there's healing on every level. Because when you work from all these perspectives sort of simultaneously, something really magical happens. Because when you work with the emotions while you're concentrating on sensation in the body, just some remarkable changes happen. Or when you notice when you got your mind stuff going on, wow, there's a sensation going on in the body, or there's an emotion related to it. When you work with it from a relational perspective, a quantum healing can happen.
Oh, and I think that's why I was originally really, and I still am, I'm really drawn to your work. When I met you, I was really interested in hearing about the different things that you do. And so I think that is so important, to have a holistic approach to anything, really, but especially with healing. I love that you work not only with the body, but with the mind, the emotions, and the spirit. And so I know you have so many different modalities of healing that you do, and do you talk about that in your book at all? In the
Dancing in the Eye of Transformation.
Yes,
yeah. I talk a lot about. I'm very interested in integration across the board, and that has a lot to do with, like, for example, the first chapter has to do with the number one. Well, in that, the way I look at it is there's so many different ways to see the universe, so many so many different religions, so many beliefs, so many approaches. And what I'm really interested in is, what do we share, all of us? What can we find as commonalities? So honoring the diversity and yet noticing what it is to be human and how can we come together. That really interests me. So how do we come together with each other? And then how do we come together within ourselves with all these layers of the self, with different aspects of the sub-personas and everything? So I'm just interested in the integration across the board, and how do we approach not only our own healing, but the healing of humanity from a holistic perspective.
That's beautiful. I'm really curious to hear a little bit about how you came to this path. I feel very inspired seeing you and sitting here with you, because you're definitely someone who is living their life's purpose, who is doing all this stuff. You have a mystery school, and you developed a technology that is brand new, and that you train people in this technology, the Shama Soma, the shamanic somatic healing therapy. And so, if you can describe in a nutshell how you got onto the healing path, or just what your journey was with that, I'd love to know.
Well, I have to tell you, I have the great honor of having been raised by true elders as parents. And my father was a minister and a psychotherapist, and my mother was a spiritual healer. And they're both very wise, very loving people. So I was raised in an environment where we're always looking for love.
Always.
We're always looking to see how we can serve each other and serve humanity. And I was raised with that as a central premise.
Oh, so from the get-go, you were raised with that. You were
Right.
brought up with that. That's great.
I had very little, like a lot of people go through a lot of traumas, not to say I didn't have traumas, because of course I did, but I didn't have to unlearn a lot of things. I was able to, like, for example, I always had a very strong psychic spiritual gift, and I would tell my mother things I was seeing or I was hearing, and she might say to me, "Sylvia, I don't see what you're seeing, but I believe you." So I didn't. So I was always supported, even young, because I could see spirits even when I was 8 years old. Younger than that, I was always aware of things going on, and I was always supported in that regard. And so having that kind of foundation of loving kindness, I didn't have to learn how to be loved, because I have that. And I had such a role model for loving kindness that it made it easy for me to live that. And so since I'm able to be in that embodied state, it makes it easier for me to transmit that to other people. So I feel extremely fortunate this incarnation for what I've received.
And that is such a testament to the fact that one of the most powerful things that one can do is, if it's their life purpose, is to bring up a child in a way that they feel fully embodied and fully loved as who they are, because then they're able to go out into the world feeling empowered and change it.
Yes,
for the better.
And there's so many amazing, skilled children coming in right now. These indigo children, or crystal children, what are all the names?
Rainbow.
However we categorize them, but they're just amazing, amazing children. And in my work doing spiritual healing and psychic healing, I've had the opportunity to actually mentor some very strong children psychics. Like this one young lady who's been on all kinds of paranormal shows for her abilities, and
I saw that YouTube video.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, Sylvia has a YouTube channel that you can check out on YouTube. Stay tuned for the end of the show. We'll tell you how to get that. But yeah, I did see that video, actually.
Yeah, which I find I adore working with children. I mean, I don't get to do as much of it as I'd like. I mainly work with adults, but they're just so fresh and so right there with it all.
Yeah, they definitely are, and it's such an important task to be continuing the the future of our world, right? Like this is our next generation. These are the people that are going to take this world to the next level and really usher in this golden age. So let's give them everything they need so that they can do that. Absolutely.
And what's very interesting is that even someone who's 50, 60, 70 years old, that child is still in there, and it's still needing the healing. And a lot of the adults, all of us adults, I find that so much of the healing process is like going back to the origins and healing things from the foundation up. And so we always get to work with children, no matter what age a person is.
Oh, that is such a great
So it's not too late. It's not too late. If your childhood wasn't fabulous, there's still hope for you.
Wow. That's a hoot. So I'm curious to talk about and share with our listeners about some of the different things that you do. You do a lot of different things, and I'm quite impressed with your skill set, and we won't go into that entirely, but I would love to right now just hear a little bit about some of the different things that you offer. Like, for example, we talked very briefly, we just brought it up really, about the shamasoma, which is shamanic somatic healing, I guess we could call it.
Healing, transformation.
Modality.
Healing is such a loaded word, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because sometimes, sometimes people say, oh, you shouldn't use the word healing because it somehow implies you're not already all right. Well, whatever. We're going to use the transformation is a great word too. But, the fact is that the way I look at it, we're remembering our own divine being. So, ultimately, we're just coming home. And we can never heal anyone else, but we can facilitate them doing their own work. And that's of a great interest to me. And but I started out by doing massage. And what I learned when I worked on people is I had all these funny notions about what was going on the inside. Here you are pushing around the flesh, hoping something's feeling better. And then I would get these ideas about emotions or things that would arise. And then I started to take some risks and say, I'm wondering if, and I would say something about what I was experiencing with them. And I began to find out more and more about what's going on these deeper levels. And this really intrigues me because we can work with the body and things can unwind all by themselves. But I find that when I lay my hands on a person's body, I can palpate, I can feel not just things like, all right, it's the muscles stiff here or that sort of a thing, but what's the energy emanating from that part of the body, and what does it tell me about a person's emotions? What does it tell me about what they believe about themselves and their world, what they're capable of having? What's going on with their spirit, and all that information is coded right there and much easier to perceive than people would expect. For example, I'll tell you a funny story from a training from years and years ago. At this particular lesson, I was working with a training group with the shamasoma, and we were working with how people are holding psychic cords in the body and where they were located and what would happen when you remove them. And this particular process that I use, like I'll identify where it is, we'll oftentimes identify what it's about and do some resolving, and then I'll actually, remove the cord. And people usually have an extremely tangible experience of it. Like their body will just lift right off the table right where I'm pulling, things like that. And they feel empty afterwards in that place, or feel transformed, or feel freed up in some sort of way. So it's very tangible. But this and we were working, the person was laying flat down, and then I would indicate where I was noticing things, and then I'd have other people feel it so they could also feel what I was feeling. And this one man goes, I'm not convinced, because everybody can see what's going on, and maybe it's just mind stuff. I said, tell you what, you'll do yours face down, totally quiet. So I had him lay face down, and I would point to where the psychic cords were and everything. I'd grab over his body, not even touch him, and I'd give it a little yank, and he'd be like, oh, right? All the way through. And then finally I'd have everybody else feel it, and, and then I'd pull him out, and he was like, oh, like make a whole sound and jump around. He goes, all right, I'm convinced. So this is not to toot my own horn, but this is to say, hey, this stuff is tangible. And this really interests me. I mean, energy work is wonderful at whatever level. If it's just balance in the energy, it's just soothing, that's great. But I'm particularly interested in tangible shifts, things that people can feel so that they can self-validate. Oh, I know something's happening. I can feel this. And how do we assist people to not only have a tangible energy release, but understand exactly what's shifting and how it's shifting, so their mind can get on board, their emotions can get on board, they can call on spirit and get the support for the transformation that they need. So I'm really interested in this intersection between something that feels good or we learn about or whatever it is, and tangible life changes. So in that sort of integrative way, it's like not only makes you feel good about yourself, but you also change the quality of your life, and you're able to achieve more of what you're about, what you're here to do.
Mm-hmm. And so is that where the marriage between the shamanism and the somatic, the very like feeling oriented part of that comes together, is you're bringing in some of the very mystical shamanic things that you've learned in your journey, and then also, just like you said, creating that in such a way so that the person experiencing that feels something. They feel something.
Right. The somaticizing is really, it's like the physical sensation being it's not just like, oh, I feel tense here, but it's like, oh, and now it feels clear or empty. Like people, like ideally should be able to feel things shift, because it's fine if things are just ephemeral. That's nice too. But I'm very interested in the intersection between consciousness and the subconscious and the psyche. So having a conscious experience, then we really have the subconscious mind and the conscious mind in partnership. So Shama Soma is a combination of the somatic healing with energy healing with hypnosis. And then you're really getting your mind on board. Like sometimes people hear hypnosis, they think, oh no, they're going to make me squawk like a chicken or something. I promise I never ever do that. Unless you want me to. Only joking. But hypnosis it's like some people think, oh, I'm gonna leave and I won't know what's going on and what's gonna happen. Yeah, hypnosis can be extremely effective and just it feel very conscious. You don't have to kind of leave the building for the work to happen, right? So it's getting all the parts of the self on board. It might feel more like a guided meditation or like we're playing a game together or something like that, but it's this level of enjoining the conscious mind with the subconscious, because we may feel our consciousness is hello, here I am, I'm the king or queen of consciousness and this is mainly who I am. Oh no, that's like 10%. This is over 90% of the magical being that you are not running the show. You're not. You think you are. Because the head's on top. But no, it's actually very little. And it's someone told me this great analogy once whereby like the elephant, the one person who rides on the elephant and directs the elephant, okay, he can tell the elephant to go a particular way. But if the elephant doesn't want to go that way, oh, forget it. That little guy is not. The elephant's huge, right? So this is something that happens when we have goals in our lives, things that we want to do. Our conscious mind might want to, but what about the other 90%? And so it's really creating a relationship, a conversation between the unconscious or the psyche, the subconscious, and the conscious mind, so that all parts of your being can work together for your goals. And then you can have much more ability to move forward, particularly with the things that somehow have felt resistant, because we are many multi-layered beings.
And I think that's so wonderful how you work, is that you work with all those different layers on the subconscious, just like you said, because it really does impact so much of what we do. That's why so often I'll speak for myself, so often I might have some dreams, some things that I want to accomplish, and I get very inspired. And so I create a system for myself of, okay, I'm going to wake up every day at 5:30 a.m., and I'm going to work for 5 hours before I even do anything. And you know, by day 3, it's like, all right, I think I'm done with this. And not to criticize or judge myself, but just to notice that time and time again that I have done that. I have been inspired. I've been wanting to do something and create something, and my subconscious beliefs, the limiting things or whatever that I learned from whoever, no blame, love them, it's all perfect, that's still running me. And do I really want that to run me? Or do I want to be able to consciously choose that I have the power to create my life and remove that programming and put something else in its place?
And this is true self-mastery. Because it isn't just like, I'm just going to be the boss of me. It's more like, how do I approach the committee of who I am and work together to create a co-designed outcome? And I think that's something that, you know, just sort of across the board, it's like when countries just say, okay, I'm unilaterally going to just take off and do this kind of thing. You know, it doesn't always work so well, but if we could learn to work together with each other, if we could learn to work together with all the layers of ourselves, this is true sort of across the board, is like, how do we improve the quality of our communication so that all the needs are met? And how can we do that with loving kindness? Because I really believe that love, loving kindness, and compassion are the very soul and center of healing. Because it's really about resolving paradoxes, conflicts, and coming into a state of wholeness where everything is held together.
I believe that too. And I think it's, just like we were talking before the show, is that it's important to, when you're working with someone like that, to kind of learn where they are and to approach them with where they're at.
Yes, exactly. And meet people where they are. Because sometimes, you know, people will learn a particular modality, and let's say it's a square peg, and somebody who's a round peg comes in, it's like you try to jam in the square peg, it may not work. But what I'm really interested in is I have someone come in and I'll ask them questions about, you know, the first questions I love to ask is, if you could get an upgrade in your life, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, what would they be? Like, how do we start from there? And what's your belief system? You know, if someone comes in, you know, I grew up a Christian, then I got more interested in working with earth-based traditions, shamanism, paganism. Then I studied Hinduism, I studied Buddhism. I know many people that are atheists, you know, so I need to be able to work with all of them, any of them, anytime, and not try to jam my religious belief down, but how do I work with where they are on a spiritual level so it supports them? It's like, I'm not here with an agenda that you're going to believe my thing. You know, I want to help you where you are. That interests me.
I have an idea. Let's ask our audience that very question. That the question of if you could upgrade your life.
Yeah.
Physically, mentally, spiritually.
And emotionally, yeah.
Emotionally.
Yeah.
What would that look like? Is that what you asked people?
Yes.
What would that look like? What would that upgrade look like? What would it feel like? How would you see yourself? How would you see those different aspects of yourself? I mean, that's like 4 different questions all in one.
It is.
You know, with each state, you know, even for myself, I'm thinking like, if I could upgrade myself physically, what would that look like? Well, it's like, I think I would be wanting to work out a little bit more. I'd want to rest more. I'd want to get more sleep. I'd want to have a certain schedule. Emotionally, what would that look like? I'd want to actually get more in touch with my emotions and journal and do things like that. And mentally, I'd want to be spending more time learning new inspiring things that help to activate my consciousness. And spiritually, it would be really committing to a meditation practice, which I do every day, but like I have this story that I want to create with a meditation in my life. And so I would just take that to the next level. And so it's like, even just for me, thinking about those things for, 1 minute, really made me realize that, wow, that's really powerful. Like, my whole life would change. Yes, would I be spending more time on working on those things? Yes, I would. But I would be growing so much more faster, and I would be expanding my capacity to do what I'm here to do in an even greater facet and way.
Exactly. And if you're working on all those levels, one supports the other. It becomes this very harmonious transformation where all the parts can work together with greater ease. And I think, like, sometimes we see people that maybe it's a spiritual teacher, but they're like, when they're not on stage, they're yelling at people, or what, it's like, or you see someone who's like an athlete and they're really in shape, but they drive themselves crazy inside of their own minds. It's so we all have excel and have weaknesses on different levels, and how can one support the other in a more holistic fashion. So usually after we've talked about, for example, what are the upgrades, if I was in a session with someone, normally I would have them lay down, and then I am very kinesthetic. I like to lay my hands on people. I also think that people are very touch-starved. And I lay my hands on people's energy centers and on their organs and do a reading of what I'm reading about how things how are blockages held in the body. So sometimes that's physical things. It might be physical conditions. It might be tightness or vertebrae out or that sort of thing. Emotionally, someone might be holding a lot of anger in their solar plexus, or they might, I can even see their shoulders deflated around their chest, like they're holding their chest way back in the back. You feel they're protecting their heart, or, you could see that's all there in the way that people hold their bodies, but also it can be palpated, it can be felt. Whether people have some kind of belief system that's totally running them, I'll never succeed, nobody likes me, Eeyore comes out, whatever's being held on those levels. And spiritually, do they, like, particularly one thing I notice is, do they feel supported by something larger than them or not? And strangely enough, it's like maybe it's not so strange. A lot of times I feel their connection to spirit, divine energy, whatever you like to call it, in the crown of their head. And it's like sometimes if they had a really oppressive parent, they might put spirit in that same guise. Oh, spirit's really down on me because I never succeed. I always forget to pay my bills, whatever it is, on time, whatever negative story you got about yourself that spirit needs to give you a hard time about. Right? But I'll feel it actually like pressure on the head. So a lot of times our relationship to our parents color our relationship to the divine.
Interesting.
It's not always that way, but it's oftentimes I find that relationship there.
So I have a request, and it's sort of last minute.
Bring it on.
So I'm wondering if you would be open to doing a little mini session on me. And then chatting about it real quickly.
Yeah, sure. We could do that. All right, my dear. When I lay my hand on your heart, I'm aware of you're just such a loving, bubbly person. You have so much love and energy and so much that you want to share. And yet part of what I feel is that you have a natural kind of enthusiasm, energy, that's really bubbly. And some people, it seems to me, like some people react really well to that, but you always second guess it. Look at people who aren't going to get it, who don't get it, who are going to judge you because you're not. But it's not like you carry that, but you're just, it affects you in terms of wondering how you should self-modulate because they don't know how to receive the amount of enthusiasm you have for life. And the main thing you want is to be able to communicate. And you don't want anything to get in the way of that. You just want to get better and better at it. So your thing isn't like, oh, I'm rejected. It's like, oh, I wish I could do better. So you use it as a form of, self-judgment is a little too strong. Almost like you really want to self-modulate, and that's an anxiety for you.
That's very true.
And solar plexus, what I'm aware of is that you have moved a lot in your life. You've changed so much, and you've gone from a state of maybe younger in your life feeling a lot more powerless, or not feeling not feeling at the mercy of your environment, and you've really learned to change that to some extent. But sometimes people's wills and wants can jerk you around because you really want to please. And that's where you get jerked around. It's like, I really want to be the best me I can be. And sometimes that's a good thing for you, and sometimes that creates a challenge for you. And you have wonderful flow with your unconscious. Your dreamer and your conscious self are in good relationship to one another, and it really feeds. It's almost like you have an overabundance of visionary energy to the point where it's like, wow, it's trickier to stay more grounded, but you have worked so hard in your root chakra learning how to ground. Because I imagine you as someone who didn't originally have that skill, but you have worked and worked and worked, and really you have the ability to do that when you do it, but you still have to make it a conscious process, because one of your greatest challenges is the polarity between anxiety and excitement, and that tends to pull you up out of your body. And so you really watch that, and you've already have been watching that, but it has to be a conscious process. And in your throat chakra, once again, it's like we're back to self-modulating again. It's like, how do I be the right amount of me and not too much me for people? How do I present in such a way that people can really get it? And how do I know when to not say and when to say? And then there's the conversation about what you say to yourself afterwards when you feel like you weren't received or people didn't get it. And that's one of your things bugaboos that you have to watch, is your self-castigation after the fact. That seems like it's an issue. You're a crazy, wild visionary. My God, it's like a technicolor inside your third eye. There's so much stuff going on there. And I definitely feel the visionary energy moving deeply through you. And just feeling how much you're loved, not only by spirit, but by your ancestors. And that you're deeply held and loved, and you're aware of that, and there's a way in which you could open up to even more of that support, so that you could unwind your soul and just relax into who you're here to be, even on a deeper level. So that's what your body tells me about you.
Wow, that was so cool. I think every single thing you said was right on. And we've talked at a party for like a little bit, but you don't really know much about my past or like my life.
No, I don't know anything.
You know, and so that all of that was very true.
Great.
Startlingly true. Yeah.
And it's great because it's such basic truths. Yeah, like sure, probably, a third of the people on the who are listening in on this could say, "Oh, that's me," right? So, there's a chance, there's a way in which some of us are very similar, but somebody else's read might be totally different. Somebody else might be filled with a lot of anger and a lot of upset and they haven't learned how to ground themselves, and they don't know how to access your voice, which you have ready supply of vision and ability to transmit it, and so everybody's different, and it's just like I said before, the most amazing puzzle ever, the human being, ever, and how it all works together.
So then, after you do a read on someone, what is there a next step? Is there something else that you do with them, or do you
Oh, absolutely. That's just the beginning, because this is more sort of identifying. Like sometimes when people do stuff, they're working with psycho-emotional therapy. They work a lot with telling their story, and then they tell their story some more, and there needs to be enough story for there to be information. But what I'm really interested in, there's a story, but now where are we going? Or how do we deprogram that story out of the body? So from there, usually I go into psychic surgery. So in your case, I probably would have pulled some psychic cords identified and pulled some psychic cords out of your solar plexus. And then I would have resolved that energy, because the universe abhors a vacuum. So if you pull something out, you've left an empty space.
Yeah.
You have to put something in its wake, or whatever it was will need to come back in, or something will need to come back in. So it's important to, then resolve those things. Then there might be, communing with different parts of the selves that might happen. So it's a combination of laying on of hands with hypnosis and, either for some people it might be deprogramming trauma out of the body. I work a lot with people that have suffered sexual abuse or emotional abuse, and how do you resolve those things? It might be someone drives their own self crazy with their self-criticism, and their, like how do they come to love with themselves and come to a place of soothing and kindness and be able to stop the mind chatter? I mean, we get in neurochemical habits. We get used to being self-abusive. We get used to doing it, and it's almost like there's a compulsion, but we have to break the pattern somehow. So you do the hypnosis, but then afterwards I always end with what I call awareness prescriptions, giving people simple things that they can do with working with sensation, working with when their mind arises with certain kinds of negativities, how do you deal with it, or spiritual practices like chanting a particular mantra, or just simple things, because if you give people too complicated things, they won't do them. So it's got to be easy.
So let's say I was your client and I just got a reading, and then I got a little healing, and I got well, not little healing, I got healed, and I got the cords cut and pulled and taken care of. What would be a prescription that you might prescribe for me?
I think one of the things that I would offer to you is one of the things you already know is when you feel anxious, ground. You already know that. I don't even have to tell you that. So I'm just going to reinforce, yes, right on. That's really good. When you second guess yourself after the fact, it's like it's okay to assess your performance, because we always want to get better, and we have to be able to hear negative criticism or improvements. So we don't want to completely eradicate it, but the tone of it is really important. So in your case, it's like, you might need to do after the fact. It's like, oh, well, I might have been able to do that a little bit better. Okay, now you've thought about it. You don't need to keep going with it. You don't need to repeat it and again and again and again. Then you move to self-soothing. I've already had the conversation. It's all right. I'm good. I did my best. And, whatever it is that you need to say to yourself to be loving. I might, I love when you're in a situation where you can put your hand on your own heart and rub your heart and let it be a somatic soothing and just really like being in loving kindness towards yourself. And it's okay. It's all right. Like, what words do you need to say to yourself that your body will just go, right.
I love you.
Yeah.
I love you, body, self, Gabe.
Yeah, just being able to, and really what we're going for is when you can say something that your body just goes, oh, yeah. And if you can get all the way to there, then you move on, But that's one of the things that I would recommend is just, work with, give yourself your assessment because you need to do that because you always want to improve, and then move to self-soothing.
And that can be a great practice for anyone.
Everyone needs it.
having self-compassion in those times of guilt and shame, and acknowledging it, saying, "Okay, great. I see that maybe next time I might do something a little differently or not, but that I don't have to be creating the pain body of it to exist."
Exactly. You don't want to reinforce it.
Yeah, I can take 5 minutes and love myself, have self-compassion for myself, and let it go.
Yeah, phew, what a relief.
Oh.
Yeah. So and so always watching for when you feel the anxious energy coming up and asking yourself what could be easier? What could be easier? And just let your body answer.
I like that. What could be easier?
What could be easier?
Breathing.
Yeah, and the body's so smart, it always knows. It's the mind can lie, the body does not lie. Really important to know that.
That's something that I think it's so great to become even more conscious of that in this moment. Something I'm very committed to in my life is if I'm not hungry, I'm not going to eat. Like if intuitively my body is feeling like you need to eat something else, you need to eat greens, or you need to go have something that's acidic because you've been eating too many greens or whatever it is. Like I think it's so crucial to listen to our body, and on all levels, whether it's something physical or it's something emotional or just what have you. I think it can be such a powerful thing. It's like, this is my roommate that's with me for this whole incarnation, and it's living right in there with my soul. Like, and it knows what it needs, and it has its own needs. And if I don't honor that, it's going to get kind of pissed off.
Right. And sometimes people have this whole philosophy about how they're supposed to be eating or how they're supposed to be, but their body totally doesn't agree.
Yeah.
And it's sad. It's true, though. It happens.
It is. I found that true with myself with raw food. I was like, oh, raw food. I did it for 30 days, and it was, I was definitely cleansed. I got that. I've definitely cleansed, and it was a healing experience for me. However, it just wasn't sustainable. It's like, no problem with people that do that, but it just wasn't sustainable for me. My body's like, I want quinoa. That sounds really good right now.
Yeah, some people need, like, if you look into Ayurvedic constitutions, people that are Vata,
yeah,
raw is rough. It's like I tend towards Vata also, and I need to eat some heavy food.
Some fat.
Yeah, some to kind of, I need grounding out. I need loads of protein. I eat vegan, but still, like, so. We sometimes our philosophy and what we think is right and what our body thinks is right. It's sorry, but it's true.
It's definitely a balancing act, that's for sure.
Yeah, you got to go when the body says, yeah.
Wow, that was great. So I wanna maybe switch gears here a little bit.
Yeah.
And I wanna bring up the fact that you started a mystery school. Like, you have people that come to your school regularly for, is it 7 months?
It's 7 months. Oh, I love this so much.
Let's talk about it. So what's it called?
It's called the Tantric Shamanism Mystery School. And some people say, "Oh, tantric shamanism. What does that mean?" I was loath to call it tantra, particularly in California, because a lot of people think tantra is some kind of sex magic thing, particularly, or sex therapy, but that's not my particular approach. Sexuality is one note in the whole symphony. We do deal with it, we do work with it, but what Tantra has to do for me is, how do you completely accept yourself and rarefy and refine your energetic body? So understanding where you're like turning your dross into gold. It's alchemy. It's a form of alchemy. And then shamanism is being able to travel between the worlds. The worlds might be traveling into your body, doing a middle world journey into your physical body. It might be working in different kinds of spiritual realms. But this training is so exciting because it really works with how we go into our being and work with the transmutation processes so that we can become more refined and energized being and really get out and make a difference in this world by being who we came here to be, not because, we should all be activists or we should all be vegans or we should all be... No. What is your path? What is your path that refines you and thus refines the world? How can you not only do that transformation for yourself, but for all beings, all times, all places? And doing that in a container of people, like a group of people who you create a community, you create depth. And I think that we really need depth. And there's so much, like we were able to create certain depth with just a few friends or here or there. But how do we be able to get in and really like rearrange our guts with people, with other people, and create closeness because we're being absolutely real. We're really showing up with who we are and who we came here to be and the struggles that we deal with and then to be challenged and to succeed, to have this experience of transformation together. It's so fulfilling for me to do. I love to get that level of depth with people and to have, 8 days over 7 months to really go deep with these transformative processes. There's a lot of, movement-oriented things. There's meditation-oriented things. There's conversations, sacred conversations that happen. But, it really sets me on fire to talk about it and to do it. I'm loving it. I have a new training starting up in January in East Bay. And
so if you're in the San Francisco Bay Area during those months, definitely check you out. Website is
tantricshamanism.com.
Tantricshamanism.
Yeah,
yes.
.com. Yeah.
Tantricshamanism.com.
Yeah, and it tends to draw really interesting, dynamic people that are just ready to go for it. Love that.
Wow, that's so great. I want to do it.
Yay!
Maybe
Come
I'll be
play.
joining you in January next year. Wow. And I'm feeling okay. That was great. I'm glad we
Thanks.
touched base on that. This whole time we've been talking, I've been wondering what your mission is for your life, because you do such juicy, profound, powerful things, and I'm really inspired by that. And I'd love to know why you're here. I mean, I think I know, but I'd love to hear you say it.
I am here to help people to have more peace and balance. And, years ago, I took the Bodhisattva vow, and I'm here. I'm here until everybody feels free, because that's more important than anything that I could make up. It's like to have your spirit free and feel unencumbered and feel empowered to be the beauty that you are. I mean, I could think of nothing better. And in terms of my own enjoyment, it's like I am just so excited, on fire about art and the relationship between art and spirituality. I'm a painter. I'm a dancer. I'm a prancer.
You have a CD.
Yeah, right. I have a CD.
You have a CD.
Yeah.
It's Sacred Fire.
Yeah, Awakening the Sacred
Awakening
Fire.
the Sacred Fire.
Yeah, and but so my own personal joy, what I do for myself is art, and I love the joy that I reach when I do those things. When it's almost like you're surfing, you catch a wave and you're like, and you're playing a riff or you're dancing and you feel like you're flying, and I love that. That's the closest thing to flying I can make up while in a body is that when you're on that creative wave, you're one with the Creator, and you are participating in the evolution and the creation of the universe. I love it.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And what is your hope and your prayer? And I think you said it, but I'm gonna ask this in a slightly different way. But what is your hope and your prayer for the world as we, being 2012, as we transition into even just the tip of the iceberg of what could be our golden age? Like, what is your hope and your prayer for every person, all the people listening, every person in the world, me, yourself? What is your hope and your prayer for every being on this planet?
I think it's the coming into the remembrance that we're already in Eden. We never left. You don't have to improve yourself. You have to remember yourself.
Oh, that is the quote of this whole show.
Yeah, just coming home to the wholeness, because in fact the pure field is the foundation that we all are in, and anything that's not that is illusion. I mean, yes, it's a very pervasive illusion. I agree. But just like one step to the left or the right, and wow, we're in the heavenly realm. We're in the celestial realm. We're in Eden. We're in, and that here on earth is heaven. There's heaven right here. It's not like, oh, it's here and not somewhere else. But all of the pure field is in every aspect of creation. So it's more about coming home to what already is than it is about becoming.
Yeah, because I already am that, and you already are that, and so are you listening at home or in your car, wherever. That you already are that, and so by consciously choosing to remember that and to take actions to facilitate that remembrance, that is when this Eden, this new earth, can be birthed, because it's birthed within me.
Yes, it's not. You don't have anywhere to go. You just have to come home. That's all it is. And yes, it may feel new. That's because of course, we're born in somebody scratched all the old chalk off the chalkboard, and I don't remember. So it seems like it's new.
Not so much. So Sylvia, people can get in touch with you in a myriad of ways.
Yeah.
You have a lot of things online that people can look at and watch and
all kinds of ways to interact. Like one of the things, if you really want to learn about either receiving or doing the practitioner's training, you could go to shamasoma.com, and I have a new training coming up in November. And then the Tantric Shamanism Mystery School starts in January, and you can always go to just my website that sort of is the clearinghouse for everything, and that's just my name, sylviabrallier.com. I'm going to spell that for you because it isn't like it sounds like. It's SYLVIABRALLIER, and I'm sure if you look where you clicked, you can see it right there too, so that's maybe the easier way to do that. And of course, you're welcome to just type my name into Facebook and join me there every day. I try to post something that's inspirational, that might inspire you, particularly around things like emotional intelligence, which is a real central, important theme for me.
I love your posts, by the way. I see them often. I see them often. And people can also follow, subscribe to you on YouTube, and you have some really wonderful videos. If they just look up your name, all one word, we already spelled it, in YouTube, they can find you there.
Exactly. And then there's some silly comedy personal growth skits there too that you might enjoy.
Which, by the way, I've got to say, I love that you combine the sacred and the silly. That's something that I do in my life as well with some of the different projects that I've got going on. And I just definitely felt a kinship seeing you do that, seeing you be so silly but also so sacred and intentional with what you're doing. It was very affirming.
Nothing beats laughing.
Yeah, if there's nothing else that you do in this world but be joyful and laugh.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. Bring it on. Bring it on. Well, Sylvia, it was such an honor and a privilege to share this space with you, and I felt very blessed to be able to share your glorious, wonderful, magnificent self with everyone today.
Oh, so. You're so kind, and I'm just wonderful to be here, and just love to all of you out there, just sending this loving kindness and appreciation for who you are. Yeah.
Who you really are.
Who you really are.
You really are. We know who you really are. And we want you to
remember.
Wake up and remember. Oh gosh, and yes, of course, it was my utter privilege to be your host for this hour and to step into the realm of Sylvia with you here. It was just my honor and privilege. And so, until next time, I bid you adieu. I bless you all with love, and I leave you with the reminder that it is indeed all perfect.
Don't be afraid when the sky is going gray. Don't lose faith, those clouds will drift away. Let the sun shine on through. Let the sun shine on through. Let the sun shine on through. Let the sun shine on you. Come on out and shine.
Realms Radio, where spirit rocks. Would you like to receive empowerment, help, and healing from heaven and the angelic realms? Schedule your one-on-one intuitive reading with me, Tana Newberry, the Angel Gal, and hear from all of your heavenly helpers and loved ones in spirit. Whether you're seeking guidance about your career, your love life, your life purpose, or anything else that can bring you more peace and more joy, I am happy to help. Learn more about my services and how to receive a free consultation at my website, www.theangelgal.com, right here on Realms Radio.